Hi everyone, I'm Allison. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From 195 with Richard. I read a couple of graphic memoirs, Halfway There by Christine Murray, and How Do I Draw These Memories by Jonelle Joshua. Graphic memoir is one of my favorite. They were great in different ways. This one was definitely, oh, you made it. That was easy.
Phoebe.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how are you? I'm just fine. How are you?
Oh, good. It's really
Good.
good to
It's really
see
good
you.
to
I
see
feel
you.
like, do I sound okay to you? Because I sound weird to me, but I'll get used to it.
You don't sound weird to me.
Okay. Okay. Um, that's fine then. It's good to see you because I feel like I know you, but we've never actually met in real life
Which
or
is
on.
hilarious. Yeah, our
Yeah.
paths have seemingly crossed within our creative circles
Yeah.
multiple times, and
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. I've respected your work for a long time,
Thank you.
and
Same to you.
it's just really cool to finally be able to say, "Hey,
I
Allison,
know. I
great to
think
meet you."
Jess was like really surprised that we have not ever met.
Really?
Um, yeah, I think, because because she's in Indiana. So she's closer to you. You two have met,
Uh,
right?
We have met. We met at
Okay. Okay. Yes, right.
Heartland
That's
Film
what I thought.
Festival.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyone who doesn't know who Richard is or doesn't know who I am, I have made some films and written and worked on some books, and Richard is the independent critic, and he has written just really wonderful, like dream reviews of these things. And I I had posted a while ago about how meaningful your review was about Eve of Understanding, which is an independent feature that I wrote and directed in a long time ago, like 20 years ago. Um,
Wow. Is it really?
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's stunning. Time is like just mind
Wow.
blowing. Um, and just how meaningful feedback is, praise, reviews, people taking the time to let you know that your work is meaningful to them because, you know, most of us aren't making money or getting rich. So it's nice to know that the work you're doing is connecting with people. So I am
Mhm.
so grateful for the work you do, Richard, because you uplift so many independent artists. And I mean, it seems like it's a labor of love and a calling almost of
It
yours.
feels like a calling. It
Yeah.
feels, one of the reasons I focused on independence was because it gave me a chance to really amplify people who are literally giving themselves so completely
Yeah.
to telling their stories, whether, they're short films or low budget independent films or whatever. And I really, I give honest reviews, but
Yes.
I try really, really hard to help connect people with films they'll like rather than just say, I'm a critic and I'm going to criticize. I
Yeah.
care about the films and I care about the filmmakers.
Yeah. I try to write reviews only of things I like because I'm not a critic, and so I just only want to put those things out in the world. But I've noticed that it's meaningful to people that, like, unless you're a real celebrity,
Yeah.
people, it's meaningful to them. Like, unless you're getting lots of positive feedback regularly,
Hmm.
you'd be surprised. So I would encourage people to leave reviews and even like tag them on Instagram, or if you post in your story or in your post and you have something nice to say, tag them. If you have something mean to say, don't tag them. I don't know why anyone does that. It's cruel. Um, but people do that, and I don't understand why you would ever do such a thing.
That's
Like,
cruel. Yeah, no.
it's so cruel, and they do it. So if you have something nice to say, you might be surprised that it makes somebody's day, because sometimes you're like, why am I doing all this? I could just be normal and stop doing all this. But I tried that and it didn't work out. So I keep doing it.
Yeah.
Uh, but anything else you would like to say, Richard? I just wanted to explain how we know each other and you recently reviewed The Loss of a Lifetime, and your review was very meaningful to not only Lynn and myself, who are the co-editors, but to many of the contributors, because what you
It's
said
been
in your
cool
review.
watching that, and you did not request that I review that one,
No, so it was
whereas
a
you
real
actually did.
surprise.
Yeah, you sent me your film, but the book was just like, okay, this sounds like something I want to read, and I've lost a sibling, and so
Yeah,
I was
I'm
like,
sorry.
I want to read it, and I was kind of thinking, okay, I really hope I like this because I know I'm going to review it, and I've got a great streak of not trashing your stuff, so didn't want to ruin that. Um, and I take your approach with books because I tend to read what I think I'm going to like because I don't.
Yes.
There's something about the writing experience. I just don't like writing negative reviews, and but I read your book and I was just. It was fun to be able to surprise you, and it was also fun, quite frankly. Most of the stuff I get because I'm a critic, I get for free. People send it to me,
Yes,
and
as they should.
I bought your book,
Very
so
kind of you, Richard. Thank you. Yeah, I was completely shocked. And pleasantly, and your review was really everything that I think so many of us want. You lost a sibling. This book spoke to you. It felt that it was creating a larger space for us all to grieve together, and I that is so important to all of us. Like because the community, as you know, in so many ways, is what keeps us going. All the different communities
absolutely.
we're a part of.
And we're
So
both people who tend to amplify creatives, which
yes,
is so. And it's been fun to watch the review and then the book kind of connect with people who support what you do. You know, watching your social
yes.
media has been kind of fun. So,
Oh, good. Well, that's nice to hear because I really feel like social media sometimes I'm just sort of talking into the void. So it's nice that there's because it's a very weird thing. I think
oh, it
social
is.
media,
Yeah,
and I am grateful that I have this series because it keeps me doing something I love that happens to be on social media. But it keeps because I would probably drift away otherwise because it's
yeah,
just you know and I'm very grateful for so many of the friendships and relationships that I have because of social media. And it's still hard to stay engaged sometimes.
yeah.
Um, so I'm glad I have this, and I'm glad that I finally got you to join me. I've been poking at Richard for years.
You have, you have. That's
I'm
at
like,
first
I
it was
don't
kind
want
of
to
a
be.
challenge. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was a challenge, and then my life kind of just fell apart for a while, and I
Yeah,
didn't
you've
feel
had a
like I was
lot.
in the right space. Yeah, a lot has been going on,
Yes.
um, and just to give context and maybe start the segue to the poem, I mean,
Yeah.
my father passed away a couple months ago, and so he was my
Yes.
last family member. And I thought to myself, do I really want to tackle this? You know, kind of on the heels of grief over that, even though we
Yeah.
had a very complicated relationship.
Yep.
Um, but I decided actually it was the perfect time to really start working through those feelings. And I will also say that reading your book, even though it was a parent and not a sibling, also helped because as I've been cleaning out his house, I've been dealing with dad who died, mom who died, brother who died, um, and because all of the memories were in that house, and
Yeah.
so and my brother died during COVID, so we didn't really get to deal with that grief, and so I kind of dealt with all of that as I started looking at writing this and finally saying, yes, Allison, I think I really want to do this. And I will also say, when you first started it, I felt like it was this safe space to amplify, especially women creatives. And I wasn't sure I was appropriate to step into that. And I
Oh,
wanted to be
interesting.
really respectful of that because we all need those safe spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, I think I just realized, first of all, you kept asking. So clearly you thought it was okay. So, okay, I'll do it.
Yes, I did keep asking. I think it's mostly, I mean, it's women because those are the people who feel the most comfortable reaching out to me and they just feel the most, and that's most of the people I know who I felt comfortable asking. But it's certainly everyone is welcome. That's sort of the main thing here.
It's such a
Everyone's
cool
welcome.
project, and these videos are so cool. And the fact that
Thank you.
we do them in this kind of this simple phone way, and I just
It is.
I adore this.
It
And
is
I've been
the
watching the
simplest
videos.
thing. That's why it's sustainable because it's the simplest thing. I don't have to edit. I don't have to like. I just and it's very sweet. I think I've mentioned, but 200 is soon because you're 195, so we're getting really close to 200.
That's
And
amazing.
Cody was like, "Oh, you should do a podcast of them. Just repurpose them for podcast." And I was like, "Sure." I don't know who's going to do that. That seems like a lot of work. I'm not going to. But my lovely friends, Paul and Ria, are going to do it. So there will be a podcast in August. We'll start back
Oh
at
wow.
one. Yeah. So it'll be nice. I think it'll reach people who are intimidated by the videos or can't make it work or whatever.
Hmm.
There's different people who like different platforms. So for me, it's fun too to circle back to the beginning. So
Oh, it's amazing to watch them, and it's amazing to watch the poems of the people that we do have in common who have
yeah, yeah,
participated, and also hear their voices for the first time in some cases.
yeah,
Um, it's really cool, and I love just the basic idea of where I'm from. The fact that photos from childhood.
yeah.
I mean,
I love
I
that.
wasn't sure you could do anything with mine because it was on this weird background,
Oh
and you
no,
just
it's so
made it.
great. You're so full of joy in the picture. I love it. I
Yeah,
mean, you're seemingly so full of joy. Obviously, you could have been posing, but you're young enough that it's usually genuine, you know?
I was pretty genuine back then. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
I
I
was a happy
love
camper.
that. Michelle Yang, who participated a long time ago, she was the first one who sent me a childhood picture because she said, "Oh, this feels like this is who I'm writing about." And I
Uh,
loved that. And then I asked people from then on out to send me childhood pictures. And it is really a highlight of my week. There's something pretty magical about receiving someone's childhood picture. I don't know. Because there's really no other context. Like, my peers aren't sending me pictures of themselves as children, they're sending me their headshots, which
yeah,
is a
I mean,
different thing, which is lovely, but it's different. I love kids. So I never tire of any child related things. So,
uh-huh.
without, I'd love to hear you read your poem. I've read it, but I'd love to hear you read
Okay, there we go.
it. Okay.
Whew. You have to understand, I have a dark room and a candle in the background, so
Oh, is
I
that what
like
that
even have,
is? Okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
I have mood lighting.
You do have mood
Okay,
lighting. I was wondering, but so thank you.
I'm from Open Spines, from Barney Fife and Last Rite baptisms. I am from the closet beneath the stairs, suffocating darkness, menacing echoes, and the footsteps I still hear. I'm from tobacco scented Appalachian cricks, crutches crunching baby crawdads, and rattlesnakes fiercely hissing but never striking. I am from alcohol inspired social skills and always smiling even when it hurts. From inner city nurses and Choctaw ancestors. I'm from cultish tribalism and down home goodness. From cosplay Christianity and addictive personalities and sexual abuse and memories I still can't talk about. From is your ostomy leaking again? And he won't live long enough for it to matter. And he'd be better off in a group home. I'm from the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses and the end of the world in 1975. I'm from 3 Days to Live in Lebanon, Indiana, from abusive cycles perpetuated by silence. From Ray's Polaroids and Jeff's burn marks. I'm from fresh caught bluegill and the 8 point buck that will feed us through the winter. From Jennifer Lynn's death shortly after birth and her mama's suicide from the pain and the guilt. I'm from learning how to love you and living the good life anyway. I'm from faded news clippings, but nary a single family photo in sight. From too much shame and I don't want to be in the photo. I'm from meticulously organizing Kroger receipts and tossing old photos in shoeboxes. From scrapbooks of tenderness and priceless reminders that I had more than 3 days to live, and family trees can be chopped down, and love can grow where it wasn't planted. Yeah.
Beautiful and so powerful. And you write often of your diagnosis and how you've far outlived it.
Mhm.
Um, but what a weight to carry. We all carry things that were said to us, obviously, in our childhood, but that to always be, and now you've outlived them all.
I have.
And
Yeah, it was, and for those who didn't get that, I have spina bifida, which was called open spine in
I didn't know that.
1960s.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Um, and I was given 3 days to live at birth, and then given a year, and then given 2 years, and kind of just grew up with that short life
Mm-hmm.
expectancy,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm in my 50s and getting ready to turn 60. So, and I've outlived my entire family, and and the doctor who gave me the original 3 days. I used to call him every year to remind him I was alive, which he appreciated. He took it in good humor.
Oh, that's good. And I have to say, I'm assuming you're claustrophobic, based on the under the stairs. As a
Yeah.
fellow claustrophobic, even reading that made me claustrophobic. Um, whoa. So is that your experience that you're writing about there?
I am. Well, I reference the sexual abuse. One of the
Yeah.
things that my abuser did, I grew up in this apartment complex that had townhomes, and there were these small closets underneath the staircases. And
Hmm.
so I would get locked in the staircases
Jesus.
until he was ready.
Oh God, I'm
And
so sorry.
so I would always hear the footsteps coming, and I knew what was going to happen.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of the more sensory memories from that period of my life. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I mean, just being locked there would be horrific enough, but then to know what was coming next and have the footsteps uh, telegraph that to you, I just can't even imagine what kind of fear that sound must still
it's,
trigger in you.
I mean, to this day, I'm not a big fan of footsteps, which is
No,
great since I don't have feet. I mean, I don't have feet, so, hey, I solved that
uh-huh.
problem.
No, I can imagine that you are not a big fan of footsteps.
I'm not a
I'm
big,
so sorry.
no. And, closets freak me out, small
Yeah.
rooms. And even being in like a big, like going to concerts where they're sold out,
Hmm.
no, can't do it.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting how it shows up in different ways. And I think for me, it's been so helpful to know that that's what's happening. Where for a
Yeah.
long time it would just be like, why does this bother me? Why am I like panicking when I'm in a car with the windows rolled up? Like, why does it make me feel like I'm gonna die?
Hmm.
And just to know, like, okay, it just helps me to be able to comfort myself now and myself then. That
Yeah.
that I'm not acting crazy. It's actually
Yeah.
incredibly sane to feel scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And building up over life, these experiences where you experience that with someone and you
Mm-hmm.
realize it can be safe, but it doesn't dismiss the idea that there are still those times when it's just okay, I'm freaking out on this
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. And it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which sort of adds to the feeling crazy, or it certainly did for me, especially when I didn't understand it, because for so long I thought flashbacks were just like the kinds of movies where it's like you see images and you know it's this that's not. I mean, usually they're emotional and they're tied to experiences you're having, and you are having a very big reaction because you're having a flashback. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I just, I didn't know that for a long time. So when I started to understand that, it felt liberating
Hmm.
in a way. Um, so what was it like for you writing this poem? So did you not, you just started writing it when we, fairly recently, right?
Yeah, it was pretty recent. I tried once. I wasn't there. I couldn't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, then I tried, and I thought it was a little too victimy,
It's
quite
hard.
frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's yeah, but I really, really, really wanted to write in a way where at least I saw things that allowed me to survive, like the inner city nurses,
Yeah.
my Choctaw ancestry, um, are very important to me. The cricks. I remember going. My grandparents lived in the hills of deep southern Kentucky, and no plumbing, no electricity. They were phenomenal human beings, and I just remember going to this behind their house and having the coolest times, and um, just an amazing experience. And so I wanted to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that it came out that all of this is real. The trauma is real. It still impacts my life, but my God, I've had an amazing life. I've lived far longer than anybody ever expected. I've accomplished way more. I don't live in a group home. Not insulting those who've had to do that
Sure.
in any way. Um, but I live alone. I work. I've accomplished more than anybody would have ever expected. Um, I have an amazing life.
Mm-hmm.
The two can coexist. You can
Yes.
experience all these traumas and then
Yes.
figure out how to love and how
Yeah.
to break those cycles.
Yeah. What a beautiful closing to your poem, too. I mean, I absolutely agree. You know,
It, I really wrestled with that the most. I think because my father had just passed away,
sure.
I didn't want to be disrespectful. I didn't want to, all three members of my family have died in the last 5 years. So, and I got so much from them, and I got
Mm-hmm.
so many good things from them, and so many good experiences. But also acknowledge it. I'm just someone. I write my truth, and I speak my
Yeah.
truth, and it's
Yeah.
so. Um,
Yeah. I feel like you've been, I mean, obviously this is mostly on social media, but I feel like you've been so respectful of their memories. And also, like you said, these two things coexist. You can be respect. I think this is something I've talked about with various people. This idea for so long that respecting people's memory was never saying anything ill of them. Um,
yeah,
and it's like, well, no, that's that's not it. That's lying. I mean, you can be
yeah,
respectful of what somebody gave you, was to you, and still be also honest about how they hurt you. And I mean, people are complicated, and our relationships with them are too. So I feel like you've kind of been going out of your way to show your respect for them.
yeah.
So I just want to tell you, as an outside observer, um, I think you
Good.
do show
No,
them respect.
and that was the struggle with the balance. I wanted to be respectful, but I also wanted to be honest. And I wanted to
Right,
acknowledge things
right.
are complicated. Yes, a lot of these traumas are very real. They severely impacted me. Um, so,
And you have an
and
info. Jessica's here. Hi, Jessica. And so is Georgella,
Jessica!
who, as you well know, is from Kentucky. So I thought of her. She's here, and then I thought of her when you were talking about the crick in
Oh,
Kentucky.
cool.
Yeah. So, hi, Georgella. And I lost my train of thought. Oh, Jess says hi. I didn't know if she'd be available or not because she's been traveling. So, I also wanted to say, not only have you outlived all of the expectations, but you have done so, you are such an incredible advocate
Mm.
for people who have experienced sexual abuse. I'm sort of thinking about not using the word survivor as much because I've been having more conversations about that. How do you feel about that word? Or what do you call
Oh,
yourself? Or do you call yourself anything?
I don't. I am a language person. I know it
Yeah,
matters, and I try to. Survivor feels weird to me. I don't know that I found a way to replace it.
it's tricky, right?
Yeah, it's
I was like
tricky.
so happy to have
Um,
a word for so long that I just used it because I was like so happy to not be shameful. Like, I'm a survivor, like, I'm wearing this, I'm
uh-huh.
sharing it. And then as I started talking with people, it started feeling like, oh, maybe this is a word that I'm using actually, and it makes it's like almost uh, making it too positive. Not positive, but like, a lot of
Yeah,
people don't survive. And also, even if you do survive, I don't know. It's just, and just saying like people who've lived through it feels very different or who've lived with it than saying I'm a survivor of it.
yeah.
And
That's
I
how I
interrupted
get
you.
with
Sorry.
words like disability, though. Disabled is
Mm,
where I struggle. Like,
mm,
um, I'm not into the person first language. I'm
mm,
fine being called disabled. It's
mm,
who I am. It's my culture. It's
mm,
how I experience daily life. I despise it when someone says I overcame my disability. No, I didn't. I live with it
mm,
every single day of my life. It
mm.
has a profound impact, and I'm also successful. And
Right,
I've accomplished all these great things. So,
right.
um,
So do you
so
say you're disabled or what do you say?
I typically I typically will. Number one, I use the word disability. I don't have a problem with the word.
Hmm.
It's not a bad word. You
No,
can call me a disabled person. You can call me a person with a disability if it makes you feel better. It doesn't um, offend me. Now, if you get into some of the ways that people try to, like handy capable, no, that's crappy. Just stop using that kind of language.
that's what I've
But
heard and read. That's
yeah,
sort of
but
like putting the kind of the positive, like kind of the toxic positivity. That's not quite what I want to say, but that's sort of where it is, I think, a little bit with Survivor too.
yeah,
Like it's making
yeah,
it more palatable
yeah,
than saying, for example, I have been raped. That makes people a hell of a lot more uncomfortable than saying I'm a survivor.
yeah.
And so I start to think about like who am I using these words for?
When I started writing and I started writing about sexual abuse, and I did this, my first book was like this GBC bound, self published book, but it really hit with, people who had been abused because I was
Yeah.
really graphic. I was
Yeah.
really honest, and they just really clicked with it. And of course, now I have a more traditionally published book, but um, people like that permission to just people who've experienced it want permission to not have to be ashamed,
Hmm.
not have to censor it, soften it.
Hmm.
You know, you can't soften rape. You can't soften sexual abuse.
Hmm.
It's horrific. It's life altering, and I
Without a doubt,
uh,
everyone I've ever known. I mean, it's not like, and I know a lot of people. I think there are a
yeah.
lot of people, but I also think, once you start talking about it, I would guess you've experienced this too. People talk to you about it because they
Oh,
know you're
absolutely.
not gonna be like, oh no, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what were you
Well,
wearing,
I
or
did that first
whatever.
tenderness tour. When I did my first
Yeah.
tenderness tour, which for those who don't know is a wheelchair journey. I do long distance wheelchair events, raise money for nonprofits, and it's called the Tenderness Tour. And I started it in 1989 with this 41-day, 1,000-mile wheelchair ride around Indiana. And the thing that came from that was about acknowledging my story and my abuse and telling the truth. And when came back from that, I realized it was going to be part of my life forever because there's a lot of people who need to be listened to. There's a lot of people who need a safe place to acknowledge their stories, which again is why I love this project. Let's acknowledge our stories. Let's create safety for one another,
Yeah.
um, and just tell it like it is. This is where I'm from.
Yeah. I think it matters. There are moments where I don't think anything matters, but most days I think it matters because it's changed my life telling my story. It's like
Hmm.
changed my life demonstrably. And I
Yeah,
think it's made me a better person as far as I have
yeah,
space for compassion for other people because I have some for myself, which I had none. It was like, why would I have compassion
yeah,
for myself? I suck. So as I was able to grow that, I'm then able to have it for others. And
yeah,
so I think telling our stories matters in ways that we can't even really understand in the moment. It takes like years and time but it's changed my life and my
mm,
relationships. And at the beginning, mostly setting fire to a lot of them. But then later, it's enabled me to have deep relationships that feel safe. Um,
mm,
and I don't know if that would have been possible because I just didn't like myself
mm,
very much.
yeah. It's weird. I've had more health issues in the past few years, but
Yeah.
it's like I feel healthier than I've ever been
Yeah.
in so many ways. And I'm certainly happier than I've ever been in nearly every way. And and I really think it's owning the voice, owning the experiences, learning how to communicate that in a way that's also healthy. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely was a spewer early on.
Sure. Aren't
Uh,
we all? I mean, maybe not. I think everyone is with someone. You have to be. How else are you going to do it? You're not going to like parse it out in tiny pieces. You're never going to get it out. I don't know.
well,
Maybe you
yeah.
are. If you
Here, let
are,
me tell you this
kudos to
story
you.
today.
Yeah. No.
Tomorrow you'll get part two.
I'm going to go home and cry for 12 hours. I'll get back to you. Yeah. No.
Yeah. No.
No, I think spewing. I mean, certainly, now you say trauma dump. And that certainly, I did that. And I was also like certain, that everyone had some terrible thing happen to them, which not everyone has, and good for them. But when I was first going through it, I was like, you seem sad. What happened to you? I was just very worried about, concerned with that. And I've gotten less outward focused and more inward, like
Yeah.
I didn't want to be alone with it.
No.
And I'm not now. But I felt very lonely at
Mm,
first. Um, so the Tenors tour, and I also did want to mention because I think it's a wonderful thing. You also are an advocate, or you've done erasing medical debt, which
yes.
I didn't even know. I mean, I guess I knew, but anyway, are you going to do that again? Or do I have to figure out
I
a
am
way
going to do
to
that again.
contribute to someone else doing it? Because I
Last
thought
year,
that
I
was
did.
incredible.
Did
I
you?
just felt, oh, yeah, like,
That came out of. I keep saying I'm going to retire from the tour because, of course, I'm getting close to 60,
right. And it's a
and
lot. I would imagine. I mean, you've written about it as well, but it's very taxing for
it
you.
is right. But it's also it's my happy place. I love being
Yeah.
on the road.
Yeah.
I love. I call it experiencing life at 2 to 3 miles an hour. You don't miss
Yeah.
people. You can't avoid people. I'm in a
Yeah.
wheelchair. I'm not going upstairs to get away from you. Um, if I come across you, we're going to say hi, and
Yeah.
because I'm still basically that kid in the photo who smiles, and you can't avoid my smile. You're going to want to talk to me if I come across your path. Um, so I just I don't know. I once I started doing it, I just kept doing it, and then last year I had and think I mentioned this. Um, I was approached about a documentary about the tour.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Wonderful.
I had some folks decide, they actually heard me present. The Heartland International Film Festival here in Indy presents a social impact award in my name, and which is really cool, really weird. I'm still not used to it because, you think of the 14 million people who give more than you do, but it's cool. And they heard me presenting it, read my book. I thought, how has nobody ever done anything about him? And so they started doing it. They put it together, and then I thought, okay, we're going to talk about the tour. I got to do one. And
Mm-hmm.
so I came up with the idea last year that I would do a tour, and I would. At the time, I was dealing with kind of the aftermath of cancer,
Mm-hmm.
but I was really struck by the fact because I've been homeless twice because of my health,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really struck by the fact that for the first time I had this huge illness, several surgeries, life-changing cancer surgery because, I had an ostomy as a kid and now I have another one. Um, but I wasn't going to lose my home.
Mm-hmm.
I had decent insurance. I had a maximum out of pocket. And I thought, why doesn't everybody else have this?
Right.
And so I thought, okay. And I came across this nonprofit, Undo Medical Debt, and I
Mm-hmm.
worked with them and I did a tour like 150 miles, which was almost exactly 1 year after my cancer surgery, which was kind of fun. Wasn't sure I could do it, but you know. Um, but anyway, we ended up eliminating just under $17 million in medical debt
That's amazing.
for Indiana
That's
residents in
so
Indiana.
incredible.
And what they do is that we buy the debt, and but it's kind of like the collection concept,
Right.
except instead of collecting it and demanding payment,
Right.
you buy it in bulk and then you forgive it.
Yeah.
And amazing organization, work with them well. I'm planning another tour. I will admit my father's death threw me off a little bit, but um,
You're allowed, Richard.
you know,
You're
I had to
allowed
take
to
a
be thrown
couple.
off a little bit.
Oh man! But one of my goals is because I'm getting ready to hit 60, is my 60th year. I want to hit $60 million in medical debt eliminated. That's my goal. So that'll be over the like next year, starting in October. And so yeah, I'm going back. I will probably die on one of these tours, and it'll be like perfect because who
So
wants to
you want,
die
is
in
that how
like
you
a
want to
nursing
go?
home?
No,
I
no
want to
one's,
go on a trail.
yeah, no one does. I don't think. I mean, no one I know does. You'd much rather
I
die with people you love or doing something you love or, you know,
you
like,
know, yeah, exactly. I want to die doing something that completely defies the idea of disability.
mm,
I was thrilled. We were able to allow my dad to die in his home, which he loved.
yeah.
He had gotten this from my mom. We went through hospice. It was what he wanted, and that was
Hmm.
amazing to make happen. But I don't want to. I want to be active, and I want to die in some weird, absurd way.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be vaporized. That was my
Did
hope.
you?
Yeah, I was like, I just want to like poof. That was what because I was very, I mean, I had a lot of people die in my life, so I was thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
I still think about it a lot. I don't know people who don't. Good for you. Um, but I just, yeah, just kind of wanted to go poof. Uh, I just really didn't want to do the long goodbye.
Oh, I hate the long goodbye. My mom had a long goodbye, and it was
Yeah,
just excruciating, and she hated it.
yeah,
And no, I don't want that.
yeah.
So,
So I think
so I am going to
I
keep
think
pushing
so. I
myself
think
really hard.
vaporizing was the shortest goodbye I could contemplate. I was like, you're just done. I don't need to be vaporized now. And that could be creepy and scary, but I wasn't thinking bombs. I was just thinking like, you just leave this earthly coil like instantaneously. Um, so okay, on a tenderness tour. Sounds like a good
Yeah,
plan. I
yeah,
endorse
I'm
this
pretty
plan,
excited
Richard.
about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I love touring. It's just the coolest way to meet people.
You're
It's
such a people
I have the
person.
best. Huh?
You are such a
What?
people person. You appear
Am
to
I a
be
people person?
such a people person. Would you describe
I
yourself that way?
always describe myself as a hardcore introvert, but
Really?
I guess you can be kind of both. I'm not. I can be really peoply, and then I need to take a week's vacation.
Okay,
But
yeah, that's fair.
yeah, but
Yeah.
but I do. I love meeting people, and I love hearing their stories. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look on my Facebook page, some people call themselves a storyteller. I say I'm a story seeker. I
Mm,
I like hearing people's stories.
me too.
Um, so so yeah, I love going on tour, and nothing else has ever given me that same feeling, which
Mm,
is why I think I keep going back.
hmm
Um, and I do have stronger volunteers now, and people who are willing to jump in and help out physically if that's needed. But I don't know. I can't imagine my life without the wheel. And I've wheeled. I think we're getting close to 7,000 miles now. So yeah, I have not done another 1,000. My bucket list is cross country.
Whoa. Okay.
That's my bucket list.
That's
I
that would
haven't
take
done it
some
yet.
infrastructure, but I mean, I wish you
Yeah.
well if you do it. I was going to say any closing thoughts before we wrap up. I could talk to you forever, but we, we should wrap
Let's
up. Um, yeah, any closing thoughts on the poem
come
or
on. Let's
anything
break the
else?
record. Let's break the record for this thing. Okay.
One of my
I'm
friends
into
was
benchmarks.
trying to watch another one of our friends, and he was like, "I just couldn't. It was too long. Like, I love you both very much, but it was too long." I was like, "Yeah, sorry. We just got chatting, and I lost our good time." So any last thoughts? Your bucket list across country. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm putting that. Uh, but about the poem
That's,
or anything else. This has been such a pleasure.
um, I think that the great thing about writing this poem is it really helped me appreciate and put words to the entire journey that didn't feel, they felt empowering. And I was
Yeah.
concerned that it would feel really trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that.
Um, and there's a lot of love in this poem. Barney Fife was the police officer who helped my parents on the way to the hospital. They
Oh,
got a flat tire. This Lebanon police officer, nicknamed Barney Fife, stopped and helped
okay.
him.
I thought it was a TV show for
Um,
obvious reasons.
yeah,
Yeah,
from
but
Andy
it's a
Griffith
real.
Show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so there's that. There's the Kentucky Hills. There's the inner city nurses. I've had over 50 surgeries in my life. Nurses are my salvation, and not acknowledging that would be unforgivable. And I don't know. It's just I think if I were to say my favorite line in this poem, it's "I'm from learning how to love you and living the good life anyway." That's even at my work. I work for a government agency, and we talk about the good life a lot for people who have disabilities because so many times we're not afforded that appreciation or that opportunity. Life can be so much about survival, and we want people to have the good life. And I'm so grateful that my parents just refused to put me in a group home, refused to believe in the idea that I couldn't, you know, live an amazing life, and that I picked up my dad's workaholic tendencies to really create a life beyond anything I ever imagined, and still had these challenging experiences, but my God, my life is amazing, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk about it.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know if you saw the comment from Georgella. This was wonderful. Thank you. And Jess, who sorry she missed the poem, can't wait to see it in replay. But it was wonderful. So
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad that I kept bugging you and that we found the right time and that you shared your poem here. It was really special. So thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.